Ricardo was a man who seemed to have it all. In the eyes of his community, he was not just a successful businessman but a paragon of achievement and stability. His marriage to Helena was viewed as the epitome of a solid partnership, one built on mutual respect and shared dreams. They lived in an elegant home that stood as a testament to their hard work and dedication, a place where they had built a life together filled with comfort and security. Yet, beneath this polished exterior, Ricardo felt the weight of routine bearing down on him. The predictability that once offered solace now felt like a chain, binding him to a life that had lost its spark. It was during this period of introspection and restlessness that Laura entered his life. Young, ambitious, and full of energy, Laura was everything that Ricardo found lacking in his own existence. As his assistant, she was efficient and resourceful, but it was her vibrant personality and the promise of something new and exciting that truly captivated him. The attraction between them was undeniable, a spark that quickly ignited into a flame of desire. Laura, with her dreams of a brighter future, spoke to Ricardo's longing for change. She painted vivid pictures of a life less ordinary, one filled with adventure and passion, and Ricardo found himself drawn to these visions. He began to spend more time with her, under the guise of work, but both knew it was something more. Their relationship, though clandestine, was intense and consuming. Ricardo felt alive in a way he hadn't in years, and Laura, seeing the possibilities that lay ahead, was determined to carve a place for herself in his world. However, as their affair deepened, so did the complications. Helena, ever perceptive, began to notice the subtle shifts in Ricardo's behavior. The late nights at the office, the unexplained absences, and the distant look in his eyes were all signs that something was amiss. Her intuition whispered of betrayal, and though she tried to dismiss it, the whispers grew louder with each passing day. Determined to uncover the truth, Helena decided to follow Ricardo one evening, her heart heavy with dread. What she discovered confirmed her worst fears. There, in a dimly lit restaurant, sat Ricardo with Laura, their heads close together, lost in a world that excluded her. The confrontation that followed was inevitable. Helena, hurt and angry, demanded answers. Ricardo, caught between guilt and desire, tried to placate her, insisting that it was a momentary lapse, a mistake that meant nothing. But Helena knew better. She recognized the look in his eyes, the same look he once reserved for her. Laura, watching from the sidelines, realized that her dreams were on the verge of shattering. She had envisioned a future with Ricardo, one where she was not the other woman but the only woman. The thought of losing him to Helena was unbearable, and in her desperation, she began to plot a way to remove the obstacle that stood in her path. Her initial attempts were subtle, sowing seeds of doubt and discord between Ricardo and Helena. She whispered lies and half-truths, hoping to widen the rift between them. But Helena, though shaken, was resolute in her determination to save her marriage. Laura's frustration grew, and with it, her resolve to take more drastic measures. In a moment of recklessness, she decided to confront Helena directly. The meeting was supposed to be a turning point, a chance to assert her place in Ricardo's life. But emotions ran high, and the encounter quickly spiraled out of control. Words were exchanged, harsh and unforgiving, each woman fighting for the man they both loved. In the heat of the moment, an accident occurred. It was sudden and shocking, a tragic twist that neither had anticipated. Helena was gone, her life extinguished in an instant, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. The aftermath of that fateful day was a whirlwind of chaos and confusion. Ricardo, devastated by the loss of his wife and the exposure of his affair, found himself at the center of a scandal that rocked his community. Laura, once full of dreams and ambition, now faced the harsh reality of her actions. The investigation into Helena's death was thorough, uncovering the tangled web of deceit and desire that had led to that tragic moment. As the truth emerged, the community was left to grapple with the shocking revelations. Ricardo, stripped of his facade of perfection, was a man broken by his choices. Laura, too, was left to confront the consequences of her ambition, her dreams turned to ashes by the fire she had ignited. In the end, the story of Ricardo, Helena, and Laura became a cautionary tale of love, betrayal, and the dangerous allure of desire. It served as a reminder that beneath the surface of every seemingly perfect life, there lies a complexity that can unravel even the strongest of bonds. And as the dust settled, the community was left to ponder the mysteries of the human heart, forever changed by the events that had unfolded in their midst. The subtle shifts in Ricardo's demeanor did not escape Helena's notice. What once were rare late nights at the office began to occur with unsettling frequency, accompanied by an increasing number of business trips that seemed to arise without prior notice. Helena's intuition, honed by years of marriage, whispered that something was amiss. The man she knew so well seemed to be slipping away, and she was determined to uncover the truth behind his growing absences. Her suspicions, though painful, were not without foundation. She had caught glimpses of a restlessness in Ricardo that hadn't been there before, a kind of distraction that she couldn't quite place. The excuses about work commitments and sudden meetings began to feel like a well-rehearsed script, lacking the sincerity she had once taken for granted. Helena's resolve to find clarity hardened with each passing day. Driven by a mix of fear and determination, she decided to follow Ricardo one evening, her heart pounding with a mix of dread and anticipation. As she trailed him through the city streets, a part of her hoped she was wrong, that her fears were unfounded. However, the scene that unfolded before her confirmed her worst suspicions. In a cozy, dimly lit restaurant, she saw Ricardo sitting across from Laura, the young and ambitious assistant she had heard so much about. Their heads were close together, their laughter mingling with the soft music that played in the background. It was a tableau of intimacy that left no room for doubt. The confrontation that ensued was fraught with tension. Helena, her emotions a tempest of betrayal and hurt, approached their table with a calmness that belied the storm within. Ricardo's eyes widened in shock, his carefully constructed world suddenly teetering on the brink of collapse. Laura, caught in the headlights of Helena's gaze, felt the first real pangs of fear. Ricardo attempted to placate Helena, his voice a mixture of guilt and desperation. He assured her that it was nothing, a momentary lapse in judgment that meant little in the grand scheme of things. But Helena was not swayed by his words. She saw through the veneer of his reassurances, recognizing the deeper connection that had been forged between him and Laura. Her determination to salvage their marriage was palpable, a force that seemed to radiate from her very being. Laura watched the exchange with growing unease. She had envisioned a future where she was no longer the other woman, a future where Ricardo was hers alone. Helena's unwavering resolve posed a threat to that dream, and Laura knew she had to act quickly if she hoped to secure her place in Ricardo's life. The days that followed were a delicate dance of emotions and strategies. Ricardo, caught between the woman he had vowed to love and the woman who promised him a new beginning, found himself in an untenable position. He was torn between his past and his potential future, each path fraught with its own set of challenges and consequences. Helena, though wounded, was not ready to relinquish her hold on the life they had built together. She sought counseling, hoping to mend the fractures that had appeared in their relationship. Her love for Ricardo, though tested, remained a guiding light in her efforts to rebuild what had been broken. Meanwhile, Laura's presence loomed large in the background, a constant reminder of the choices that had led them all to this point. She was determined to maintain her connection with Ricardo, employing every tactic she could muster to keep him close. She whispered promises of a life unburdened by the past, a life where they could be truly happy. Ricardo's heart was a battlefield, torn by conflicting loyalties and desires. He knew that a decision had to be made, but the path forward was shrouded in uncertainty. Each option carried with it the potential for pain and loss, and the weight of his choices bore heavily on his shoulders. As the weeks turned into months, the tension between the three reached a boiling point. Helena's patience, though admirable, began to wane as the reality of the situation settled in. She realized that waiting for Ricardo to choose might not be enough, that she had to take decisive action to protect her own heart. In a moment of clarity, she confronted Ricardo once more, laying bare her feelings and fears. She spoke of the life they had shared, the love that had once bound them together, and the hope that still flickered within her. Ricardo listened, his heart aching with the knowledge that he had caused so much pain. Laura, sensing a shift in the dynamic, knew that her window of opportunity was closing. She had to act, and she had to act now if she hoped to hold on to the man she had come to love. The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain, but she was prepared to fight for the future she believed they could have together. In the end, the decision rested with Ricardo, a man torn between the comfort of the familiar and the allure of the unknown. His choice would shape the lives of all involved, leaving a lasting impact that none could have foreseen. As the dust settled, the story of Ricardo, Helena, and Laura became a testament to the complexities of love and the choices that define us. It was a reminder that even in the face of betrayal and heartache, the human spirit is capable of resilience and redemption. Feeling the looming threat of losing Ricardo forever, Laura found herself in a state of desperation that she had never before experienced. The thought of him returning fully to Helena, leaving her in the shadows, was unbearable. She had invested too much emotionally to let him slip away now. Convinced that Helena was the only obstacle standing between her and a future with Ricardo, Laura began to weave a plan to remove her from their lives once and for all. Her initial attempts were subtle, almost imperceptible nudges designed to create friction between Ricardo and Helena. She would plant seeds of doubt and misunderstanding, hoping to make Helena appear unreasonable or overly suspicious. Laura believed that if she could make Helena seem irrational, Ricardo would naturally drift away from her, finding solace and understanding in Laura's arms. However, as the days turned into weeks, Laura realized her tactics were not producing the desired effect. Ricardo and Helena, though strained, seemed to find ways to reconcile and communicate, their bond proving more resilient than Laura had anticipated. It was as if each confrontation only served to strengthen their resolve to work through their issues. This unexpected turn of events left Laura feeling increasingly frustrated and cornered. She understood that if she continued on this path, she might lose Ricardo forever. It was then that Laura decided a more drastic approach was necessary. She began to consider options that she had previously dismissed as too extreme, driven by the fear of losing the man she loved. Her mind raced with possibilities, each more daring and dangerous than the last. Laura knew she had to be careful, for any misstep could backfire spectacularly. She started by gathering information, learning more about Helena's habits, her routines, and her vulnerabilities. Laura's determination was fueled by a mixture of jealousy and ambition, a potent cocktail that clouded her judgment and pushed her towards a path she never imagined she would take. She envisioned a scenario where Ricardo would have no choice but to turn to her, where Helena's absence would create a void only she could fill. As she plotted, Laura maintained her facade of calm and professionalism at work, ensuring that neither Ricardo nor Helena suspected her true intentions. Her interactions with Ricardo were carefully calculated, designed to reinforce the idea that she was the only one who truly understood him, the only one who could offer him the happiness he deserved. Despite her outward composure, Laura was acutely aware of the risks involved. She knew that if her plan failed, it could mean the end of any hope she had of being with Ricardo. Yet, the more she thought about it, the more convinced she became that this was the only way forward. In her mind, the end justified the means. As she moved forward with her plan, Laura found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, there was the thrill of potentially achieving her goal, of finally having Ricardo all to herself. On the other hand, there was a gnawing fear of the consequences should things go awry. This internal conflict only served to heighten her determination as she resolved to see her plan through to the end. She knew she was walking a fine line, but the thought of a future without Ricardo was enough to steel her resolve. The days leading up to the execution of her plan were tense and fraught with anticipation. Laura meticulously reviewed every detail, ensuring that nothing was left to chance. She rehearsed her actions in her mind, visualizing each step with precision. Her focus was unwavering, driven by the belief that this was her last chance to secure the life she had dreamed of with Ricardo. As the moment approached, Laura felt a mix of excitement and dread. She knew that everything hinged on her ability to carry out her plan without faltering. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure was not an option. In her heart, she believed that once Helena was out of the picture, Ricardo would see her for who she truly was, the woman who loved him unconditionally and was willing to do whatever it took to be with him. The day finally arrived, and Laura set her plan into motion. Every action was deliberate, every word carefully chosen to manipulate the situation to her advantage. She watched as events unfolded, her heart pounding with anticipation. As the dust settled, Laura stood at the precipice of a new reality, one she had fought so hard to create. Yet, in that moment of triumph, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had crossed a line, that she had become someone she no longer recognized. The realization hit her with a force she hadn't anticipated, leaving her to question whether the future she had envisioned was worth the price she had paid. With Helena's death, the fragile structure of the love triangle came crashing down, leaving chaos in its wake. Ricardo, overwhelmed by grief and the exposure of his affair, found himself at the center of a maelstrom that he could never have anticipated. His once orderly life was now a public spectacle, dissected and scrutinized by those who had once admired him. The whispers of scandal grew louder, echoing through the corridors of his professional and personal life, leaving him isolated and vulnerable. The investigation into Helena's death cast a long shadow over Ricardo, each revelation peeling back layers of his carefully constructed facade. The media, hungry for every salacious detail, painted him as both a grieving widower and a man whose indiscretions had led to tragedy. The duality of his public persona clashed with his internal turmoil, leaving Ricardo to navigate a world that had shifted beneath his feet. Meanwhile, Laura found herself thrust into the harsh glare of public scrutiny, her role in the events leading to Helena's death a subject of intense speculation. Once an ambitious young woman with dreams of a future alongside Ricardo, she was now a central figure in a case that gripped the community's attention. The legal ramifications of her actions loomed large, each day bringing new challenges as she faced the reality of her situation. Her name became synonymous with intrigue and betrayal, the whispers of her involvement a constant reminder of the line she had crossed. The community, once united in its admiration for Ricardo and Helena's seemingly perfect life, now found itself divided and confused. The mystery surrounding Helena's death left a void filled with questions and suspicions, each theory more sensational than the last. Neighbors who had once exchanged pleasantries now regarded each other with suspicion, the air thick with tension as they grappled with the shocking turn of events. How could a life that appeared so idyllic end in such tragedy? This question lingered like a shadow, casting doubt on everything they thought they knew. As the investigation unfolded, the complexities of human relationships were laid bare, revealing the fragile nature of trust and the destructive power of secrets. Ricardo's colleagues, friends, and even family members found themselves questioning their own perceptions, wondering how they had missed the signs of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. The once clear lines between right and wrong blurred, leaving a murky landscape where motivations and intentions were difficult to discern. For Ricardo, the loss of Helena was compounded by the realization that his actions had set in motion a chain of events that could never be undone. The weight of his decisions pressed heavily upon him, each moment filled with regret and what-ifs. He retreated into himself, seeking solace in memories of a time before everything had gone so horribly wrong. Yet, even in his solitude, the echoes of his past choices reverberated, a constant reminder of the price of his desires. Laura, too, faced the consequences of her ambition and longing. The future she had envisioned with Ricardo was now a distant dream, overshadowed by the harsh reality of her involvement in Helena's death. The legal proceedings were a relentless march, each hearing a reminder of the gravity of her actions. She found herself isolated, the support she once took for granted now replaced by judgment and disdain. In moments of quiet reflection, Laura grappled with the enormity of what had transpired, her mind a battleground of guilt and justification. As the community continued to grapple with the fallout, the case became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the complexities of love and the unforeseen consequences of our actions. It served as a stark illustration of how quickly life can unravel, how the pursuit of happiness can lead to unexpected and devastating outcomes. The story of Ricardo, Helena, and Laura became a touchstone for conversations about morality, loyalty, and the human capacity for both good and ill. In the end, the tragedy left an indelible mark on all who were touched by it, a testament to the fragility of human connections and the unpredictable nature of life. As the dust settled, those involved were left to pick up the pieces, each grappling with the lessons learned and the scars born from a series of choices that had altered the course of their lives forever.